hello, and welcome back to my channel. Today, I am going to give you 10 tips on how to darken your story. But first, let me explain why you should want to darken your story. Let's do drum roll, yes. One creates emotional impact. You can create fear and empathy and engage your readers more. 2. Adding depth and realism. Since life is not all sunshine and lollipops, it will create a more realistic reading experience. We've all had bad things happen to us, haven't we? 3. Contrast and balance. Light can't exist without darkness. Darkening a story can balance with moments of lightness and hope. Those are some of the reasons you might want to darken a story. Now let's go into how you would darken a story. But first, we have to go back to work at our think tank. And here's tip 1. Explore dark themes. Okay, that might have been obvious if you saw that coming. Have your main character get betrayed by someone close to them, perhaps the death of someone close, a best friend, or maybe the character felt he was responsible for the death, which starts the story off dark, and now they're trying to go back to the light, and this could be a redemption arc. There may be a revenge or some other moral ambiguity to the story or character. Number 2, develop flawed characters. Well, is there anyone who truly likes plain vanilla other than when they're eating ice cream? No one, probably. All your characters should have flaws or past traumas or both. Dive deep into them and how they got to where they are at this point in the lives in your story. A past trauma could be almost drowning, and now they're scared to go anywhere near the water, but then there's a child in trouble in the water, and now she's the closest one to save the kid. Or it could be a romantic trauma, as in a character has been ghosted by everyone they've ever been in a relationship with, and now believes they're either not worthy of love, or they don't trust members of the opposite sex. Let's come up with some more. Yeah. Number 3, set your story in a gritty atmosphere. Not just a horror story, but post-apocalyptic stories are dark and gritty by their very nature. Death is almost always just around the corner, but around here, no, don't. Well, good thing death's not around there, at least not yet anyway. Will the knock on the door be a friend or enemy? Is that shadow creeping up behind their child? Or is it a grizzly bear about to chow down on them? Are those dust clouds on the horizon an approaching tornado? Returning soldiers from victory? Or an attacking army? You can also begin by asking these questions. Was the darkness due to some government or type of government? Or some type of calamity that happened in the near or distant past? Maybe. Let's think more. You can introduce moral dilemmas. What this means is give a character 2 bad choices. This is not a case of do I save my child or my friend? That would be an obvious choice. Nor is it a choice of does the character rob a bank to get money in order to stop someone from killing his family. Both bad choices, but it's an obvious one that someone would choose. Is a choice of which child do I save? Both are drowning or caught in a house fire, and the character can only save one, his son or daughter. Or let's say there's a highly contagious and deadly virus spreading throughout a small town. A doctor finds the cure, but there's only enough of the cure to save half the people in the town. Who lives? And who dies? Well, that would cause problems, wouldn't it, if you're one of the ones who's going to die? Increased tension and conflict. Surely you are aware that without conflict, there's no story. But how do you create and increase tension between characters other than the villain and the hero? There should be some reason for allies not to trust each other. Maybe it's an alliance of convenience, or there is a past between the characters. One of the best examples of this for me, anyway, are 2 of the Purge movies, Anarchy and Election Year. In Anarchy, the Frank Grillo character, Leo Barnes, and Callie played by Zoe Soul, have the most conflict as Leo wants to purge due to a tragic event in the past, while Callie tries to convince him that purging is wrong. If you watch the movies, you will see the same thing in election year. Another way to create tension is to have 3 or more characters and have one of them manipulating the others into believing someone else has stolen something, or anything else along those lines. Water break. You can use symbolism and metaphors. Certain objects can have dark connotations. For example, a broken mirror can be used to symbolize shattered dreams and lives. The character could look into a broken mirror, be thinking of what happened their life was like before it happened. Anyway, any plants that are wilted or otherwise decaying could symbolize mortality. If you ever watch the movie Excalibur, you will see at one point where the land is decaying. And when King Arthur begins to ride with his knights again, the flowers and other plants start coming back to life. Other things you can use are storms. Just don't start the story with, "It was a dark and stormy night." Crows can also be used, like in The Stand. A character can have emotional or moral darkness, as in he feels darkness closing in, or he tried to escape the shadows of his past. That's a symbol, falling either literally down a flight of stairs, or she felt herself descend into darkness where she wished she would never go again. Illness and decay, for example. The rot of government corruption started, as these things always do, with just a little bit of mold that went unnoticed or ignored until it infected every level and nothing could be done about it that didn't involve drastic action. Settings. Make an oppressive setting, like someone stuck alone in an abandoned building and tried to a support beam, and the building started to creak. Could be funny, eh? A character's description could also be dark, as her eyes were the color of blood. You can also use plot devices such as a cursed object or something that represents the character to a tragic past, like the death of a family or friend member he felt responsible for. And in a character's dialogue, you can have them speak in metaphors. "I am just a shadow of what I once was." Number 7, explore psychological depth. Peel back the onion layers of a character's fears and inner demons. Think back to the plot device mentioned earlier, and explore how, if something reminds a character of how they were responsible for a tragedy, they don't want to, shall we say, drive a car again, or even take a ride in one. Perhaps they were the sole survivor of a boating accident and refused to go near the water again. But that will have to be determined. That will have to be determined how they get over that in the future part of the story. Another example of this is in the movie Thelma and Louise, when they were on the run from the law. Louise refused to go through Texas to get to Mexico. I won't do any spoilers here, just watch the movie if you haven't seen it, and you'll see how that adds to the movie. What you should also do is avoid easy resolutions. An example of this is a Deus ex machina, which is a seemingly unsolvable problem is suddenly solved by an unlikely occurrence, as in the hand of God, or a god descended and made everything right again. This will be further explained in a later video, as all the other points will be, but the gist of it is a problem is solved during the story. The characters don't ride off into the sunset even at the end of the story. If you're dealing in a series, have a new potential problem crop up. Subvert expectations. Another way to say this is, don't have the butler be the one who committed the murder. That would be too cliche, to have an obvious rival with clear motives to be the one who was the murderer. Let's say there were 2 people going for the same promotion at their jobs. One of them ends up being killed, and that other person was the one who was going to get the higher paying job. Now the person who ended up getting the promotion, only because the other one was killed, had the obvious motive. But think of who else could have done it. Perhaps someone was angry over a perceived slight, or it could have been a friend of the rival who wanted to make sure that person got the job. Remember, the Motive does not necessarily have to make sense to you or to the police, just to the person who committed the murder. And finally, here we go. Drum roll, everybody. Balance, darkness, and light. In order to make the dark parts of your story seem even darker, it is important to have some moments of levity to give your readers a breather. An example of this is in the movie Saving Private Ryan, the scene before the final confrontation with the German forces. Private Ryan was reminiscing about life back home with his brothers before they shipped out to serve in the war. This made for a deeper sense of foreboding when the Germans approached their position. I hope all this helps. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit that like button. And also don't forget to check out my books listed in the links below. And last but not least, if you'd like a free book, sign up to my newsletter in the link below. Thank you and make it a great day. Boom.